Hey, Public Safety Network here, guys. I was talking to a buddy of mine who works for a security company that we actually used to work together, and he was bringing up the topic that many of the guys that he worked with feel like they aren't taken seriously by law enforcement. And so I'm going to kind of talk about a perspective coming from more of a security type background, and now that I work for a public safety department, which is attached to another police department, and the fact that I work with other local police departments pretty much on a nightly basis, I can kind of give a little more perspective on how you can possibly be taken seriously by the police officers that you deal with. And I've pretty much broken it up into 4 categories. These are more tips to help you be taken seriously and even interacting with law enforcement stuff. And that's appearance, attitude, know your role, and asking for information. First one is appearance. If you're going to interact with law enforcement, who they consider themselves professionals, you yourself need to look professional. You need to look squared away. That means not having overly long hair, making sure that your hair at least looks somewhat neat. It doesn't have to be, high and tight, but it needs to look like you didn't just crawl out of bed that morning. Same with your uniform. If you're going to wear a uniform, it needs to be clean. It needs to look like you didn't sleep in it before you showed up to work. So you don't have to sit there and starch and press it, but it needs to have at least gone through maybe the washer and the dryer before you went to work. Piercings, guys, I know we're slowly moving forward in things that are found acceptable in the security industry. Obviously, tattoos have gotten a lot more acceptable. A lot of the guys on my department have full sleeve tattoos. But when it comes to piercings, guys, you're not only representing yourself, you're representing the company, and having facial piercings and things like that. Most people, even probably someone of your own peers, aren't going to find that very acceptable, and so I would consider looking at taking those out or just not getting them. It's okay to express yourself, guys, but you kind of have to fit into what the job that you decide you're going to do is. Making sure that your duty belt is squared away. That's another very important one, guys. Making sure that all of your gear is the same, at least style. You don't want a leather belt and a basket weave handcuff case and a nylon baton holder. This makes you look sloppy. So at least make sure that all of your gear is the same style, whether you choose nylon, leather, basket weave, whatever. Just make sure that it is all the same. Not having excess gear, guys. Not having excess gear is another important appearance. Is don't carry around, a taser, baton, 3 pairs of handcuffs, 4 magazines, 6 flashlights, 2 handguns. These are all excessive, and this is gonna make you look like what we consider a tryhard, or someone that's trying to look super tactical, and in all honesty, it kind of just makes you look a little bit dumb and definitely not professional. So carrying the basic gear, handgun, couple magazines, maybe 1 or 2 pairs of cuffs, glove pouch, flashlight, if you carry a taser, things like that, perfectly fine. We work in similar type areas that law enforcement works at, so there's nothing wrong with carrying the same gear as long as you're trained on it, but you need to not go overboard with that gear. Same way with the vest, guys. I live in a state where it's exceptionally hot, so I prefer the outer carriers because it's much cooler. Okay, if I ever go back to the office, I can kind of just, air it out a little bit, things like that. But you need to make sure that your vest is not just covered in crap that you don't need. Crap that you don't need. You don't need like 17 pouches and 2 taser holsters, all that. And I mean, every vest has their own style, but I mean, just make sure that it looks clean, it looks presentable, it looks like you're organized. Make sure it also has the correct markings, guys. That's another thing that police officers hate, is when you have guys that want to blur that line about whether they look like police officers or not. Make sure, if your state requires that you have security on the back or whatever on the back patch, make sure you have that patch. And also make sure you wear the side patches that inform them, I'm a security guard, or I'm whatever, I'm not a police officer. Having markings, makes the police look at you and like, okay, that guy knows his role, which we'll talk about later. He's not afraid to say, I'm a security guard, I'm, whatever. So that's about it for the appearance. The next is your attitude towards the police, guys. We work hand in hand with law enforcement, a lot. There's some of us that do it more than others, but for the most part, a lot of security guards will have at least one interaction with law enforcement during their time in security. The biggest thing is your attitude towards them. You don't want to get in kind of a pissing war with the police department. If the police department's coming to your property, whether you knew about it or not, you need to understand that someone called them there because they felt that a police presence was warranted. You're not always going to be informed every time the police show up. I've shown up to plenty of sites or even calls where the police were already there and I had no idea why. So you need to not get into a little jurisdiction war saying, well, I need to know about this, I'm security or whatever. That's important that you get the information, but there's a way to do it without you coming off like a jerk or like a wannabe cop who wants to get in on the investigation. Let the cops handle their business and then go from there, and we'll talk about it a little later and about asking for information. That's really all it is, guys. Just don't be a jerk to the cops. Be nice, be cordial. Maybe, if they're feeling it, maybe after a round when you're just kind of all standing around, maybe crack some jokes with them. That's fine. I guarantee I've known plenty of cops that just like after a call or whatever, everything's done, they're kind of hanging around a little bit and they may think you're cool. You can kind of, crack jokes with them, ask questions. If you're considered getting into law enforcement, after helping them with whatever they need, it's a great time to ask questions, things like that. And that can actually help build a rapport with your local police department. The next is know your role, guys. Don't try to overstep your boundaries and do more than you're trained to do and you're legally allowed to do. The reason that police show up is because it usually requires the presence of a peace officer who has the arrest authority and everything that comes with a post-certification. So don't get upset, guys, when the police come over and they kind of ask you to step aside. They may ask for your assistance, but it's a criminal matter, let them take it over. Those are the guys that are going to be the ones writing the reports, taking suspects down to the jail, filing the charges with the attorney, with the state or county or whatever attorney's office. So let them do their job. Like I said, they're most likely going to have you ask them to assist. You can even ask them, like, how can I help you? A lot of times they'll be like, well, can you go talk to that person over there, get information? They may ask you where certain things are located or where this or that is, and be very forthcoming with the very information. Be willing to help them out. And that's going to go a long way when they look at you. I'm like, okay, this guy's squared away. He had a nice attitude towards us. He was willing to help us in, whatever way we needed. That right there is going to have them look at you like, this is, a security guard that we're more than happy to help up. We're happy to show up when he needs us. We're happy to answer questions when he asks us. Those things are all important, and they're going to go a long way in the eyes of your local police department or whatever police department, whether it's the county or even the state police. And then last but not least, guys, is how you ask for information. Now, I understand we all have other things we need to be doing at our jobs. Obviously, sometimes in your property, it's kind of your job to be there when the police show up. But, a lot of people after these incidents have to write reports. I know I have to write a report after pretty much almost everything that I do. And sometimes they can get quite lengthy. But there's an appropriate time to ask for information. Now, if the police officers are in the middle of arresting a suspect or fighting with someone on the grounds, you can jump in there and try to help them. That's completely on you if you don't feel like you're going to be a hindrance and it looks like they need the help. But asking a police officers for information like IR numbers or their badge and serial numbers while they're in the middle of a fight with a suspect is not the appropriate time to do that. And trust me, I've seen it happen. Waiting until they've conducted their investigation, waiting until they've finished up and they're kind of getting ready to head out, that is the time you need to ask for information. I know for my reports, I generally get their name, their serial number, and then their incident report number for whatever their report they're going to write. That's all information you're most likely going to need, and it's best to ask them after they've already got that information themselves. So waiting until the conclusion is your best bet on getting all the information that you need for your report and not irritating them. Because like I said, if they're trying to talk to witnesses or suspects or victims and you're hounding them, I need this information, that information, you're just going to bug them and they're going to kind of tell you just go away. And they're going to disdain coming to calls at your location because they're going to be like, oh, this guy's going to bug me when I'm trying to conduct my investigation. So always remember, there's appropriate times to ask for information and you need to learn what those are. Like I said, those 4 are just kind of the main areas that I hit, guys. There's plenty more where that came from. There's tons of other things I could add to this, but I'm just kind of trying to keep it short. If you guys have any other questions or any other topic for videos, go and leave them in the comment section below, or you can email me at www.publicsafetynetwork9@gmail.com, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Thanks for watching, guys, and tune in for next time.